Have you ever wondered what it takes to stay legal when bottom fishing off the southeastern United States? We're going to answer that for you right now. Hey guys, Drew with Regulator Marine, and we are here in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm being joined by Matt Perkinson by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. And Matt, you're going to help us answer the question what we need to do to stay legal in bottom fishing off the southeastern United States.
Sure. So when you are fishing for snapper grouper species, and that includes anything from obviously your snapper and your grouper, but also things like black sea bass, triggerfish, even spade fish. There's some very specific requirements that you need to have out in federal waters here. So anywhere from 3 miles offshore, you're going to need some specific equipment. The first one of those is called a descending device. Descending devices are designed to combat something called barotrauma in a fish. And barotrauma is when you're fishing and you catch a fish deep, you bring that fish up from depth, the air that's within that fish is going to expand. As that fish gets to the surface, if you release that fish without doing anything to it, it's just going to float on the surface. It's likely to be eaten by a shark or a barracuda. And so what these descending devices do, they use very heavy weights. This one in particular clips on the lip of the fish. You're going to clip that on. It's going to send that fish down, and as that fish gets back down to where it was caught, all that expanded air in the fish is going to decompress and it's going to release. It's going to give the fish a much better chance of swimming off and surviving that catch and release.
Fantastic. So all of these items are sort of designed with conservation in mind, is that right?
That's right. Whether you're choosing voluntarily to release a fish that is in season, or let's say it's out of grouper season, or red snapper are closed, or it's a fish that's undersized or oversized. There's a lot of circumstances where you're going to need to release a fish. And obviously, if you're releasing that fish, you want it to have the best chance to survive, potentially be caught again another day.
No, absolutely. Now, are these descending devices required for fish of any different sizes, or is these just totally, encompasses all sizes?
Anything, if you are fishing for or possessing anything in that snapper grouper complex that I was mentioning before, you are required to have one of these descending devices on board of your boat. It needs to be rigged with at least 60 feet of line, preferably more, and it needs to have at least 16 ounces of weight. What you can see here, I'm actually using, this is a 5-pound stick weight. You need to descend a 25-pound red snapper. 16 ounces of weight's likely not going to get that back down to the bottom. So you may need 5 pounds of weight. You may need 8 pounds of weight. And I really like these stick weights. They actually fit pretty nicely in our rod holders here. There are also more manual devices here. This one's called a Shelton fish descender. This is more of a manual device. Goes through the fish's lip. As you send it down, you give it a sharp tug and it's going to release that fish back down at depth. And so what happens is, as that fish is going from the surface back to depth, all that air that is expanded is going to contract. It's going to give the fish a chance to swim off there once it gets back to depth.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When you're using these devices too, it's a good idea once you get that fish up to the boat and measured to do that quickly, right?
That's absolutely true. One of probably the biggest factor on whether a fish survives the catch and release process is time out of the water. And so anything you can do to get that fish on board, if you need to snap a quick pick, give it a quick lift, get a pick, but get it back into the water as quickly as possible. That's going to give it the best chance of surviving catch and release.
All right, Matt, on top of that descending device, I noticed you got a couple other things here that you would highly recommend having on when bottom fishing. So what do we got?
Yeah, so 2 more pieces of equipment that you are required to have if you are fishing for or possessing those snapper grouper species. This is a dehooking device. It can be something like this. This is one that slides over your line and helps you get that hook out of the fish's mouth. It could be something as simple as just needle nose pliers. But these are required to be aboard your boat when you're fishing for those species. The other thing is that you are required to use a non-stainless, non-offset circle hook. And what we mean by non-offset here, it means that the point of that hook is going to curve around and point directly back to the shank of the hook. So we've got, here's a non-offset circle hook, also sometimes called a tournament circle hook. And for example, here is an offset circle hook. The difference here is that this non-offset hook is much less likely to catch in the gut of that fish, catch in his throat. It's more likely to catch right in the corner of his mouth, and it's better for release.
Now, where can people access the information as far as, finding the equipment and finding their regulations? Is that going to be online at the DNR website?
A lot of times I send people to the Fish Rules app. We work very closely with those guys to make sure that the folks are legal. You can go there, you can see what's in season, minimum sizes, all that sort of thing. Really good color pictures and a lot of information on the legal requirements for each fish. So Fish Rules app is one that we highly recommend. Fish
Rules app, great resource to have. Any other websites that they could check out as well?
Yeah, if you're bottom fishing out there, specifically would recommend the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council has a great best fishing practices page. Gives you a lot of information on the best way to use these descending devices, even how to make your own descending devices if you don't want to purchase one commercially. A lot of information on the best way to handle fish and release them safely in the event that you're not keeping them to eat.
All right, fantastic. A lot of great information. Matt, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
everybody,
glad to be here.
Stay safe, stay legal.